Hey, good evening, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Jeremy Gillespie, and this is Going for Broke Outdoors. It's off season, but that doesn't mean there isn't work to be done. So tonight, I'm going to cover what I'm doing right now to improve my odds for this coming fall. And I want to hear from you on the steps you're taking to make 2026 your most successful season yet. So let's get started. The first thing that I'm doing is evaluating areas for improvement. Every year I make mistakes. Some years a lot of mistakes. And every postseason I try and eliminate those mistakes. So let's start out with a big one that's been plaguing me for more than a year, but something that I'm definitely going to fix this year. And here's a specific example. This past fall 2025, I shot under a 160 class, non-typical in Kansas. Obviously, that hurt. What happened? I was hunting off the ground. I had a small window to shoot through at an unknown distance. I could draw and shoot, or I could use my rangefinder. I did not have time to do both. And some of you might be asking, why didn't you have the spot ranged already? I did have multiple spots ranged. That's one of the first things I do, but this was a new area to me. And one of the spots I had ranged, the deer was beyond that. It was real flat. So I guessed how far beyond that. It's hard to tell when the ground's real flat. Some slope usually helps me out. And I guessed wrong. So I guessed 5 yards past that. It was more like 12. And I shot just barely under the deer. So big mistake there. And I had the same thing happen on an elk too. So what am I going to do different? Well, right now I'm shooting a 495 grain total weight arrow. I have a Easton Axis 5mm. And I think a 340 spine. Anyways, total arrow weight's 495. One of the things I'm going to do this year is there's a lot of new arrows out that are lighter weight, so you can still, or lighter grains per inch, so you can still maintain a high FOC, but a lower total arrow weight. So I'm looking at either the Victory HLR or the Easton 5.0. And if I use either one of those arrows and the same length with the same spine, I'm going to be able to reduce my arrow by about my total arrow weight by 40 to 50 grains. And that's going to be a lot more forgiving when it comes to range estimation. So big change there. And then something else that I'm going to do, and I'd like to know if any of you guys do this currently, is I've read about using your pin gaps. So I shoot a 5-pin sight. You can use your pin gaps to estimate yardage. And if you think about this in the extremes, you drew back your bow and you were 1 yard away from the target and you shot a 5-pin sight, all 5 of your pins would be on the vitals. If you went back to 100 yards and you draw back your bow and you aim, only one of those pins is going to be on the vitals. So as an example, at 30 yards, maybe 2 of the pins are on the vitals, or let's say 3, and at 40 yards, 2 are on the vitals. So that'll give you a rough idea if you can't use a rangefinder. And that's something that I found myself, situation I found myself in multiple times, is I get drawn back on an animal and the animal moves, or I have to draw and I don't have time to range. So that's something I'm going to look into getting more comfortable with. And I'm also going to shoot a lot more 3D this summer. So what issues did you guys have this fall? And before we move on to the second thing I'm doing this off season, what issues have you guys had and what are you doing to mitigate those? Let's check the chat here real quick. Justin Tanner's in the chat. What's up, brother? Andy Hardcore, what's up? Says upgrade to an RX-10. That is very possibly on my list. So Hoyt came out with a new bow this year. I'm shooting an RX-1 right now, which I think came out in 2017 or 2018. And the new RX-10 has, what do they call that? Their tuning system. It's an onboard tuning system to tune out your tears and stuff. So that's the first time Hoyt's had one on their flagship bow. So that is pretty appealing. So that's something that I'm considering as well. Well, while we're waiting for some more chat, let's move on to item number 2. Get an exercise program together. So this is something that I was able to do pretty successfully last winter. I was getting fat guy, real fat guy. So my exercise program was simple. I just tracked my calories for 3 months. I had a treadmill that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace, and I was doing 2 miles per day on an incline, anywhere between 6 and 10 degrees. I got a kettlebell. Actually, I've got two, bunch of swings, bunch of squats, Bulgarian split squats, if you've never done those, where you just squat on one leg with your other leg elevated on a chair. Good. Some core work and some stretching, and I was able to lose 40 pounds in about 4.5 months. So put some back on over the fall and this winter, fat guy fall, I called it. Just during hunting season, it's harder to keep the diet up in the exercise program, but I was getting a lot of hiking in, so probably put 10 pounds back on of the 40 I lost. Looking to get those back off, plus a few more. So my friends that come out to Montana to hunt with me, they always ask about gear, and I tell them all the number one thing they can do to improve their odds of success is get in shape. The longer you can stay in the field, the more ground you can cover, the more likely you are to find an animal that meets your standards, whatever those are. So if you guys are planning your first Western hunt, which that's something else we're going to talk about here in just a second, that's the number one thing I can recommend is if you're going to buy any gear, make sure it's a pair of boots that fit well and are broken, and make sure your fitness is up to snuff, because there's nothing worse than your own body taking you out of the field after 2 or 3 days and on a week-long or 10-day-long hunt. So what else am I doing right now? I'm planning point purchases for future years. If you guys are looking to buy points or you've never hunted out west, a lot of these states hunts, whether that's pronghorn, elk, mule deer, a lot of them you have to build up points. And right now, I'll show you some of these sites, and I put links in the video description, but some of these places are already open. For example, Wyoming elk, that opened January 1st. I believe it closes either the 31st or February 2nd. Here, let's go here. I skipped Arizona. So Arizona right now, the pronghorn and elk draws are open. I applied for these the first time this year. A little confusing, but not too bad. You go to apply for a big game draw. You go all the way through the process for pronghorn or elk, and then you'll check out, and then you have to go all the way through the process again for the other species if you want to do that. Arizona is one of the latest states to get you have to buy a hunting license racket before you can buy points. Kansas started doing this a few years ago. A lot of states are doing this because it helps out their revenue, but it's not great for DIY guys. So in Arizona, I had to buy a hunting license, non-resident hunting license, I believe was $160. And then the pronghorn application for the hunt, which was $15, and the same for elk. So I ended up costing around $190. The good news is Arizona, even if you don't have points, like this is my first year applying, I actually applied for the hunts because you can draw the hunts. I think it's something like 25% of the tags go in a random lottery. So if you don't draw, because you're not going to have a lot of points right off the bat, you still have a chance in that 25% lottery. That's a straight lottery where if you're in, everybody's got 1 point. So I've got a friend that lives in Arizona, so I've got maybe an insider there, and I decided to apply for those. I think that would be a pretty fun hunt, and this guy tells me that if I draw an elk tag, which I should be able to do in 3 to 5 years, that it's a real high odds hunt. You can actually draw rifle elk tags with relatively or surprisingly low points. Like I said, 3 to 5 points in some areas. So something to look into. That's Arizona. I mentioned Wyoming. Is that Wyoming? That's Wyoming. So right now, Wyoming elk is open. That closes first. The other applications are open: deer, pronghorn. You can apply for sheep, moose, all sorts of stuff. Again, a lot of these places take multiple points, like the area that I'm looking at. Trying to elk hunt, it's like a 9-point draw. I think I'm buying my 6th or 7th point this year. So just to point this out, if you've never applied for Wyoming, this is application season only. Wyoming has a separate points only application period, and that starts, I believe, July 1st and runs through either the end of September or the end of October. But I was actually just in Wyoming over the weekend. Had a friend that was on a mountain lion hunt. I was just logistics support, which basically meant I rode around behind him on a snowmobile for 3 days. And that was a fun experience. We didn't end up running any lions, did see some tracks. But Wyoming's a beautiful state, and for the experience, great place to go, tons of game to hunt. But all of these hunts take points. So if it's something you're interested in, start applying now. Start building your points. Find a way to afford them. I think don't quote me on this, but the antelope points are roughly $30. I think it's $40 for deer and $50 for elk. So you're looking at, if you apply for all three, $125-ish. Obviously, if you apply for moose or bighorn sheep or any of these other hunts, your prices are going to go up. But $125 a year is about what it's going to take you to get in the game in Wyoming. And then as a heads up, everybody probably knows I live in Montana. It's already almost the end of January. March 1st, the application for deer and elk opens in Montana, and there's a lot of nuances. If you guys are interested in that, I made a video last year. You can go on my channel called Montana Non-Resident Deer and Elk 2025, something like that. But if you look that up, walk through all the steps of applying, and you're going to want to know specifically about preference points. So if you don't apply for preference points in consecutive years, they expire in Montana. So basically what you want to do is you want to buy a point the year before you apply. So if you wanted to hunt in 2029, buy a preference point in 28, and then another one in 29 when you apply, and then you should draw that year. So that's kind of what everybody's been doing since they implemented the new system. Yeah, that's another thing that you should be doing, that I'm doing right now. And when I say you, all this stuff I'm talking about tonight applies to me as well. Is I'm building points. So another one that's coming up soon is Colorado. That's March or April as well. Iowa opens in May. Kansas is in April. There's a lot of places that take points now. In my opinion, the better public land hunting is all draw areas. I mean, there's still some good hunting in over-the-counter like Ohio or Missouri, but if you're looking to target more mature animals or bigger animals on public land, some of these draw states are definitely the way to go. So look into those. What else am I doing right now? I'm doing gear maintenance and upgrades. So it's winter in a lot of the Midwest and the West. There's not a whole lot to do outside. So it's a great time to clean your nugs. Can't say the G word, I don't think, or they frown upon that. Can't show them for sure. But clean those, check your bow over. Do you need a new string? Do you need new cables? One thing that happens to me is my optics get super dirty every fall. So I take a day and take the eye cups off my binos, off my rangefinder. I've got a lens pen, actual cleaning solution and stuff. Try to clean those up real good. Put them away for the season. Check your stands out. Are your cables getting bad? Are any of your bolts rusty? Check your safety harness. A lot of people don't know those have 5-year periods that they're good for. And do you have to replace it? No. Is it a good idea? Or maybe that's just tree stand harness marketing gimmicks. But if it's in good shape, sure, keep it. But maybe that thing's been out in the weather and it's looking rough. Think about replacing that. Broadheads, boots, clothing. This is a great time of year to buy clothing. Most of the hunting stuff's on sale. Maybe not as much right now as it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Usually right after Christmas. Anything that I need to replace, I try to buy in January, off season, best time of year to get your used gear. And it's too bad. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Camo Fire went out of business recently. Used to buy a lot of stuff off Camo Fire, so that was a bummer. What else am I doing right now? Postseason scouting. Now, I don't do a ton of in the field in Montana postseason scouting right now because of the snow and the animals migrate or yarded up. What I do right now is January, February is when I do most of my map work. So if I'm checking out new areas, I'm going to get on whatever your scouting map is, Cal, Topo, Onyx, Spartan Forge, whatever you use. Onyx also just updated their maps to include slope angle, which was pretty cool. And you can get LiDAR in the one view on Onyx now. So if you guys haven't seen that, pretty cool. But I like to spend the time right now to, maybe 1 hour a week or 1 hour every 3 or 4 days to look at some maps, to check out some new areas. And those are areas that I'll hit usually March, April, and May, and also do some shed hunting in those areas. Something else I'm doing right now, I'm trying to keep all my trail cameras alive. So if you're done running trail cameras for the year, the number one killer of trail cameras is leaving your batteries in. So I take all the batteries out of my trail cameras. I've got several that are 10 plus years old. They're still working. I think the big reason why is I don't leave regular alkaline batteries in them to corrode and mess up the terminals and stuff. And the other thing I like to do right now is, if I haven't done it already, I go through my SD cards I locate any daylight pictures of bucks. I label those by the location they were at, usually with GPS coordinates. So if I forget in the future, I can look back. And when I say GPS coordinates, I just put a coordinate on the folder so I know where that camera was. And I'm looking for 2-year-old or older bucks, and hopefully anything that survived. If I see that deer again while I'm running trail cameras this year, I'll have some information that I can quickly go back and reference. So filing my trail camera pictures away. Something else that I like to do this time of year, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I like to read research studies. So MSU, the Mississippi State University Deer Lab, and the Penn State University Deer Lab, they both release a bunch of studies, and they have archives. So if you're really trying to get to know the white-tailed deer and make informed, data-driven decisions, those are great resources. So I highly recommend checking those out. And if you guys haven't read any of that stuff, super valuable information. And Bronson Strickland, he was on Dan's podcast once, but he's the guy that it's kind of like the outreach coordinator for MSU. He's been on the Southern Outdoorsman podcast multiple times. They have him on as a regular guest, and great information. Basically, he just kind of puts in layman's terms what they're finding from the research study. And the Southern Outdoorsman, those guys ask good questions, I think, pretty regularly. So let's see what we got in the chat here. Justin says, FYI, if you haven't heard Dan address beast gear in last night's live towards the end of the show, not to stir the conversation in another direction. Yeah, someone reached out to me and let me know. I didn't watch it, and like I said, I actually wasn't on social media hardly at all over the weekend because I was in Wyoming. Justin also says, beast gear ain't beast gear without the hunting beast. Jet Franks, I missed the last 2 beast reports. Haven't had a chance to watch as Dan addressed your video. According to Justin, he has. I did watch part of it today. Like I said, somebody reached out to me and let me know, and I don't want to speculate anymore. I was a little surprised by the reaction on my video. I thought I tried to stay pretty neutral and just question in general what was going on and ask the questions a lot of other people had. And I think a fair amount of people agreed with me. Some people thought I was stabbing Dan in the back, and why didn't I just call him? I don't know. That got more out of hand than I thought it was gonna, but I guess I can see some of those points of view. Jet says, I got to watch now. Yeah, so you guys that are on, what are you doing right now to prepare for the fall? And what do you think your biggest weakness was this year? Jet said, are they Splitsville? Sure sounds like it from what I watched. Jet, if you want to check that out, it was like the last 20 or 30 minutes of Dan's show last night. Scott and Dan talked about kind of what was going on without getting into all the details, but some information that was definitely new to me. So, yeah, Jet says I am. And, so I just wanted to go over some things that I'm doing personally right now to get ready. And these are things that I think are overlooked a lot of times. Like I said, this time of year, it's easy to get complacent, lazy even. I'm guilty of it myself. But I'm trying to dedicate a couple hours a week to either scouting. Every day I'm trying to work out, make sure my fitness is up, and just trying to get ready for the season. So I don't think we have a whole lot of questions tonight. If you got one, get it in here. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up in a minute. And the other thing I wanted to say before I do wrap up is now that I have a real internet connection, which I talked about a little bit last week, I had a terrible connection for the last 2 or 3 years, but I have Starlink now. So thanks, Elon. I'm going to start doing live every Monday night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, which would be 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. I know that's getting kind of late for the Eastern guys, but by the time I do get home from work and take care of stuff, 7 o'clock works best for me, and you guys can always watch them the next day if you can't catch it live. But I want to go over some of the things that I'm doing right now, things that I'm going to be doing to prepare. And I'm going to put out some more videos this year. Actually, hopefully quite a bit more than I have the last few years. So trying to get back on the YouTube schedule full time here. So if you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure you do. If you're interested in the content that I'm going to be putting out, yeah, get subscribed. Tune in every Monday, 7 o'clock going forward. If I can't make a show for some reason, I'll let people know, or I'll put a post up on my page. But going to be looking forward to doing that. So Jet says, I still got him daylighting on a corn pile. I don't know. I don't know. Jet, is your season still open? It's weird. I forget some people's seasons are still open, like Ohio. The season closed at the end of November in Montana, so I haven't thought much about hunting for the last 2 months. Oh, yeah, one other thing I wanted to do real quick. If you guys never been to Wyoming, I took a few pictures here. So this is the Wind River Canyon. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a canyon that carves out by the Wind River. And it's a beautiful area if you get a chance to make it through there. Highly recommend it. Oh, what happened? Oh, here we go. This is a picture from when we were out looking for lions. We snowmobiled into this place. I think we were like 15 miles in here. I'm not used to riding sleds in the mountains, so this was pretty sketchy for me to get out here. We rode up and down some 200-300 foot ridge spines and stuff, and snow was super deep, like waist deep. Got stuck a few times. Here's one of the mountain lion tracks that we came across. I don't know if my mouse cursor will show up, but that's about the size of my hand. If you look, you can make out the 4 toes and then the pad. So it's pretty cool to see the tracks. Like I said, I was just riding around on the snowmobile. I did not have a tag, but I was just there to help push out snowmobiles and stuff. And then this is central Wyoming on the drive home. So if you guys are looking to get out of Dodge for a while, or again, build some points, it's hard to recommend anywhere more than Wyoming. Pretty good hunting, beautiful scenery, and not a lot of people. Tags are semi-reasonable. Okay, didn't have a whole lot of questions tonight, but like I said, tune in. I'm going to start doing these regularly Monday, 7 o'clock. If there's anything that you guys are interested in me discussing specifically, or questions, topics about Montana, anything else, let me know, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.